email recently about the Patriot Act, which nobody is thinking or talking about these days, in my sense. And
well, I got a couple hundred letters on that.
yeah. The Almanac of American Politics is, if I'm not mistaken, described you as having occasional reservations about elements of it, and you were kind enough to send an email, and you talked about 3 points, and I was too lazy to read through it, so I thought I'd just ask you about it.
Well, I was the author of the Patriot Act when it passed after 9/11. And because it went into uncharted territory, I insisted and beat President Bush in getting a sunset of 4 years put in the Patriot Act. As the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I promised that I would not go along with making those provisions permanent prematurely, but that I would hold hearings on each of the then 17 increased powers given to law enforcement in the Patriot Act before the sunset in 2005. I fulfilled that promise. There were hearings on each of the 17 sections. 14 of the 17 were non-controversial. So when the reauthorization came up, those provisions were made permanent, and some of them, in fact, the American Civil Liberties Union testified in favor of. The 3 that were controversial were given another 4-year sunset, and that included the court-ordered roving wiretaps authority, the business records authority, and the lone wolf terrorist, which allowed somebody who was not a member of a recognized terrorist group but was acting as a lone wolf to have increased surveillance authority approved by a judge on them. Those expired at the end of 2009. They were first extended for a year till the end of last year, then they were extended for 4 months until February 28th of this year. So we have to act on doing something about those 3 provisions. I introduced a bill to first make them extended through December 8th, which is the target adjournment date for Congress. The Senate didn't go along with that and wanted 90 days, meaning May 27th. I was on the floor 5 times. We should have been able to do it with being on the floor once, arguing the issue. Most of the opposition came from people who were talking about either things not in the Patriot Act to begin with, or in things that everybody signed off on because they hadn't been abused now 5 years plus ago. The 90-day extension passed. I can say I'm one of the few that actually got a bill that I sponsored, signed and passed in the first 60 days of this Congress. And last Wednesday, I had a hearing on the 3 expiring provisions. With the hearings that I hold, the minority always gets 1 witness, and the Democratic witness was somebody from the Cato Institute, which kind of surprised me. And the Democratic ranking member who was sitting next to me said, "Boy, this guy really isn't a very good witness, is he?"
That's a Libertarian Institute.
Yes, it is. Jeff Curzon, North Lake Drive, followed by Dan Beal, of Wauwatosa, followed by Carol Carpenter of West Evergreen Court in Bayside. Mr. Beal.
Congressman, welcome back to the Bay. It's good to have you available to your constituents.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
That's all right. I'm here to see whether you will support in FY 2012 $80 million for the National Diabetes Prevention Program. And then on a personal note, when Gabby returns to the House floor, will you sponsor a resolution commending her for her determination, resoluteness, and courage in representing the people of her district?
Well, the answer to the second question is yes, and we've already passed a resolution right after the assassination attempt on Representative Giffords when she was in the hospital out there. She truly is a profile of courage. She is also a very decent person because I've worked with her on science and space stuff, and you know, she's always polite, she's always very courteous. You can have a dialogue with her, and most importantly, she keeps her word. Now, you know, relative to the diabetes program, I don't know if I'm going to be given a vote on that. My guess is that this will either be folded into an overall budget resolution and/or folded in to an appropriation bill for the Department of Health and Human Services and others where the NIH's appropriation is lodged. You know, let me say that we need to have what I call dynamic scoring in this, because if the diabetes is prevented, we're going to save a lot on Medicare and Medicaid. And if they don't have the savings estimated on Medicare and Medicaid, then this will be an $80 million additional program that will have to be offset by $80 million worth of cuts in other programs under the jurisdiction of that subcommittee. It doesn't necessarily have to be a health program, but it can be some other type of program. If there's no dynamic scoring, getting $80 million more for anything, whether it's diabetes or anything else, is going to be very, very tough. And I'll be the first one to admit that, because increases in one area under our rules now have to be offset by dollar-for-dollar decreases in others.
Thank you.
Okay.